One beautiful spring morning, Earth was at peace. Children played in parks, people went about their work, and life carried on normally. However, everything changed in an instant. Alien spacecraft appeared out of nowhere, casting enormous shadows on the sun and striking fear into the hearts of humans. Battle robots with thunderous engines descended, and the early attacks rocked and destroyed buildings, filling the streets with cries and confusion. Commander Zalthar stood tall in his shiny armor, projecting his holographic image to human cities. His cold, calculating eyes sparkled with hatred. "Primitive humans," he said in a threatening voice, "surrender now, and we will spare your lives. Resist, and you will face total annihilation." The ultimatum was clear and relentless. Captain Michael Smith observed the initial waves of the onslaught from his office window in a military complex. His demeanor was grim and firm as he felt the massive weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "It's now or never," he thought, turning and striding to the command room. He realized he had to lead the opposition. Smith acted quickly, calling his soldiers and coordinating the initial defense using all available channels. "Attention all soldiers, prepare for combat. We must defend our cities and protect our loved ones." His voice rang out over the tumult. Inexperienced troops like Jonathan Evans quivered with terror but were determined, standing alongside battle-hardened veterans like Sergeant Robert Hernandez, who efficiently disseminated instructions. Zalthar established his operations base in the devastated areas and targeted crucial facilities with deadly precision. He underestimated humanity's resolve and expected a swift victory. However, the human resistance was fierce, albeit uncoordinated. Earth's defenders astonished the aliens with their savagery, using old weaponry and innovative tactics against the superior Gorer technology. Early conflicts were desperate. The cries of the maimed and dying filled the streets as explosions rocked the city. The human defensive line shook but held. Smith shouted instructions, lifted fallen men, and shot with deadly accuracy everywhere in the chaos of war. His tenacity gave hope to his men. As the sun set, turning the sky crimson, Smith rested his troops. They were grimy and weary, yet their eyes burned brightly. He climbed a pile of rubble and addressed his heroes, each in their own manner. "Today, we fought like never before," Smith said, breaking the silence. "We lost friends, brothers, and sisters, but each of us did what was necessary to protect our families, our homes, our planet. They have technology, they have power, but we have something they will never understand. Our spirit, our determination. We fight not just for ourselves, but for everything we love." He gazed at every soldier he saw. "They expect us to crumble, to give up, but we will show them what it means to be human. We will show them that no matter how strong the enemy, we will never retreat. Remember today, we are fighting for the future, for Earth." His passion inspired the warriors, who yelled in admiration. With morale restored, the troops prepared for the next day of action, knowing they would fight to the end. Smith stood on the wreckage, more determined than ever. The fight was only beginning, and mankind was not conquered. Dawn brought further destruction. The Gorer's massive ships rained havoc on the city. The once bustling streets were now in ruins and chaos. Civilians raced for cover in the remnants of buildings that offered some protection. Gorer soldiers intensified their attacks, destroying infrastructure and driving civilians away, spreading terror and despair. Captain Michael Smith held fast in the makeshift command center. He was tired, but his eyes were determined. He coordinated defenses rapidly with limited resources. "We have to hold the line," he cried above the blasts. "Use anything that can serve as a barricade. We will not let them advance further." Jonathan Evans and Sergeant Robert Hernandez stood out among the soldiers. Smith urgently called Evans and Hernandez. "I need you to conduct a reconnaissance mission, assess the Gorer movements, and find any weaknesses. Every detail can make a difference." Jonathan, still young and inexperienced, nodded determinedly, while Hernandez, a war veteran, shook Smith's hand before leaving. "We'll bring back useful information, Captain. You can count on it." The two moved silently through enemy lines, planning each move carefully. The destroyed streets provided cover but also posed danger. Jonathan observed Hernandez intently. Gorer violence was pervasive. Hostile soldiers patrolled methodically, and the destruction was complete. However, Hernandez discovered something vital. "Look there, Jonathan," Hernandez murmured, pointing to a Gorer supply depot. "They rely on these sites to keep their war machines running. Without these supplies, they will be vulnerable." Jonathan took mental notes on every detail. "If we can attack these depots, we can destabilize their operations." The two encountered great danger during their mission, narrowly avoiding detection by Gorer patrols in a small passageway. Jonathan held his breath as they continued their vital reconnaissance. Jonathan's breath quickened, his heart racing, as Sergeant Thomas Morales signaled for them to stop. The enemy patrol continued past them, oblivious, allowing Jonathan and Morales to proceed, now more cautious than ever. They returned to Captain John Reynolds' headquarters, bearing crucial intelligence. "Captain, we've got something that can turn the tide," Morales said, presenting their findings. "The Gorer are highly dependent on their supply depots. Targeting these can cripple them significantly." Captain Reynolds examined the data, a renewed optimism shining in his eyes. "Excellent work, both of you. Let's adjust our tactics immediately. We'll show these invaders that they underestimated humanity." Reynolds orchestrated swift ambushes and precision strikes against the Gorer supply depots. Despite heavy losses, these small victories began to boost human morale. Well-timed explosions disrupted the enemy's operations, frustrating the Ros, the Gorer commander, who struggled to comprehend the resilience of the so-called primitive humans. As the new tactics took effect, Morales observed Jonathan closely. "You have potential, kid. I'll train you personally. We need leaders like you." Jonathan, though fatigued, was determined. "I'm ready, Sergeant. I'll do whatever it takes." With Morales' specific training, Jonathan's confidence grew. The conflict raged on, yet humanity endured, fighting relentlessly despite the challenges. The destroyed city lay shrouded in darkness and silence as Captain Reynolds prepared his troops for a crucial mission. "Listen up," Reynolds said, breaking the stillness of the night. "Our objective is the Gorer weapons depot. We need to move quickly and quietly. Let's use the darkness to our advantage." They moved through the ruins, evading enemy patrols and surveillance. Every step was deliberate, the suspense palpable. At the depot's boundary, Reynolds ordered them to disperse. Jonathan Miller and Sergeant Morales controlled their breathing, knowing each second was potentially fatal. Finally, the bombs were planted around the facility. The night erupted in blinding explosions, confusing the Gorer and severely damaging the depot. Amid the chaos, Jonathan's pulse quickened as Gorer troops cornered Morales. Reacting swiftly, Jonathan provided covering fire, allowing Morales to escape, though he sustained a wound. "Good job, kid. You saved my life," Morales said, admiration clear in his voice. Despite the heavy losses, humanity retreated to their rendezvous point with their wounded. The darkness that had once shielded them now felt suffocating. Back at base, the heroes received a bittersweet welcome. Memorials for fallen comrades tempered any celebrations. Reynolds addressed his weary troops. "We lost many today, but we also showed that we will not retreat. We will keep fighting for every life lost and every piece of our land." Meanwhile, the Ros was enraged, his fury at the humans' defiance fueling his desire for revenge. "They will pay for this. We will crush their resistance completely," he vowed. At the human base, Morales pulled Jonathan aside and handed him an insignia. "You proved your worth today, Jonathan. This is a symbol of trust. You have the potential to lead, and I want you to be ready." Jonathan accepted the symbol with pride and determination. "Thank you, Sergeant. I won't disappoint you." The human resolve only grew stronger as the night wore on. They knew the war was far from over, but united, they believed they could overcome any obstacle. Holding the emblem, Jonathan felt a renewed sense of duty and optimism. Captain Reynolds realized the next critical step was to unite forces globally. Following the successful counterattacks, he led a secure conference using a network of functioning satellites. Military leaders from various nations appeared on the screen, their faces marked by determination and anguish. "The situation is critical," Reynolds stated firmly. "The Gorer have advanced technology and overwhelming force, but our resistance has proven that we can fight. We need to unite our forces. The defense of each city, each nation, depends on our ability to work together. Military commanders shared their knowledge and resources, developing strategies to fortify key cities and deploy elite soldiers to vulnerable areas. Despite the widespread destruction, hope remained. Jonathan, given increased responsibilities, led a small unit on sabotage missions. His leadership in swift, precise strikes on enemy supply lines boosted his troops' morale. "We have to be quick and silent," he instructed, his eyes filled with determination. "Every explosion, every sabotage will weaken the Gorer and improve our chances of resistance." While Jonathan conducted these operations, Morales tirelessly trained new soldiers. His voice echoed across the training fields. "There's no room for mistakes. Each of you must be prepared for the worst. Our survival depends on your skill and courage." On one mission, Jonathan's unit destroyed a critical supply depot, causing chaos among the Gorer. Explosions lit the night sky, further weakening the invaders. As global alliances strengthened, human scientists who had fled the Gorer delivered crucial information about the enemy's mothership. In a secure briefing, scientists explained, "The Gorer mothership is the heart of their operations. If we can destabilize it, we can significantly impact their chain of command." Reynolds felt the weight of the decision. Attacking the mothership would be perilous, but the potential rewards were immense. He studied the holographic map of Earth and the mothership in his makeshift office, knowing every step needed careful planning. Taking a deep breath, Reynolds began drawing up the attack lines. Determination to save the world. "If it's to save our world, then so be it," thought Reynolds, fully aware that this struggle could determine humanity's fate. He methodically planned the attack on the Gorer mothership, understanding that this operation might change the course of the battle. His team included Jonathan Carter and other trustworthy warriors, each handpicked for their bravery and skills. They knew the hazards, but also the mission's paramount importance. Reynolds gathered his squad in the improvised hangar of their operations base. "Everyone here was chosen for their skills and courage," he remarked, looking each soldier in the eye. "This mission is risky, but it's our best chance to destabilize the Gorer. We need to plant explosives on the main reactors of the mothership. If we succeed, we can significantly weaken them." Jonathan adjusted his gear, feeling the weight of the mission. Morales, standing beside him, patted his shoulder encouragingly. "Stay close to me, kid. We'll get through this." The nighttime infiltration of the mothership began with a stealth spacecraft that allowed the squad to enter undetected. However, the real challenge lay ahead. Gorer guards patrolled the passageways with relentless efficiency, and their technology was omnipresent. Every move was calculated. Every shadow could conceal a threat. Jonathan and Morales combined their expertise flawlessly. Jonathan swiftly disabled security systems, while Morales silently took down any guards who approached. Each second stretched into an eternity as they advanced, the tension building. The sight of the mothership's massive reactors, pulsing with energy, was both horrifying and hopeful. Destroying these reactors could deliver a decisive blow. The squad planted the bombs quickly and precisely. Suddenly, alarms blared. They had been discovered. Gorer guards swarmed the area, igniting a fierce battle. Reynolds fired at the attackers, shouting, "Keep planting the explosives." Weapons blazed as Jonathan and Morales fought desperately, every moment a struggle for survival. After the bombs were set, Reynolds ordered a retreat. "Let's get out of here now." They raced back to the stealth ship, pursued by Gorer soldiers as the bomb timers ticked down. Smaller explosions rocked the mothership as they reached their escape craft and took off. From space, they watched as the Gorer mothership was torn apart by internal explosions, finally obliterated in a brilliant flare of light. Inside the stealth spacecraft, the squad was exhausted and breathless in the aftermath of their victory. Reynolds, seeing his men's fatigued expressions, spoke solemnly. "We lost many today, but their sacrifice was not in vain. We've dealt a significant blow to the Gorer. Now let's honor them by continuing the fight." The squad watched the blazing remains of the mothership, feeling a mix of triumph and sorrow. Jonathan held Morales' emblem, a symbol of duty and loss. Despite the heavy casualties, they had renewed hope, even though the conflict was far from over. The destruction of the Gora mothership disrupted the enemy's communications and assault coordination, providing a crucial advantage. Reynolds and his men returned to their base as heroes, though their victory was overshadowed by the pain of loss. In the makeshift hangar, the soldiers' faces showed fatigue and anguish. Jonathan, still clutching Morales' insignia, felt the weight of their sacrifice as he watched the honorable burials of the fallen. Reynolds gathered his troops grimly. "We lost many good men and women," he said sadly, "but their courage brought us a crucial victory. We cannot let their sacrifices be in vain." The Rose, the Gora leader, was badly injured in the mothership explosion and vowed retribution. From his command position, he unleashed fiercer strikes, and the Gora fought with the ferocity of a cornered beast, making the battles more intense. Reynolds convened his commanders to adapt their strategy, recognizing the shift in enemy behavior. "They are weakened but still dangerous," he noted, pointing to holographic maps. "We need to be smart and strike harder and faster." Turning to Jonathan, he added, "You showed exceptional courage. From now on, you will lead your own squad." Astonished yet honored, Jonathan silently accepted his new role, understanding the continued significance of his part in the conflict. He led swift and efficient strikes against key Gora positions, exploiting the enemy's confusion to humanity's advantage. As weeks passed, the intensity of the fighting escalated. The sounds of war vehicles and weaponry echoed across the land. Driven by hope and memories of the fallen, people fought with unmatched fervor. Amid the chaos, Reynolds received critical intelligence. "We have Theros's location," a spy urgently reported. "He is hiding in a fortress in the old city center. This is our chance." Reynolds felt that defeating the Rose was essential to shattering the Gora spirit. He called an emergency meeting to plan the final battle. "We need to prepare for a decisive confrontation," he declared with determination. "This is our opportunity to end this invasion once and for all." Preparations began immediately. Soldiers examined their weapons, sharpened their knives, and reinforced their armor. They knew this battle could decide humanity's fate. Morales, with his arm bandaged, assembled fresh recruits and addressed them with purpose. "You trained for this," he said. "Remember why we are fighting and who we are." Captain Michael Reynolds stepped out of the tent that night to gaze at the horizon as his men rested for the upcoming combat. The war's effects were evident in the distant lights of ruined cities. He inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of his duty to defeat the alien invader, the Rose, and halt the invasion. Reynolds knew the next battle would be the toughest. Yet, his men's courage and the memory of the fallen steeled him for the final assault. "Let's finish this for all we've lost and all we still have to protect," he said, his eyes shining with purpose. The conflict would decide Earth's fate, and Reynolds was determined to save mankind. The red morning skies foretold the carnage to come as human soldiers prepared to strike the Gora lines in full force. Every soldier understood this might be their last battle, but they were resolute. Alongside Jonathan and Morales, Captain Reynolds led the attack. Plasma fire, explosions, and war cries wreaked havoc on the battlefield. Reynolds signaled his soldiers to advance, shouting, "Let's show these invaders that Earth will not fall without a fight." Jonathan, his agile and well-trained sidekick, moved quickly across the battlefield. Morales, a seasoned veteran, dispatched enemies with precision. The fight was brutal. Although disoriented by the destruction of their mothership, the Gora fought desperately. Jonathan and Morales' bravery inspired their fellow soldiers to fight harder. Jonathan's valor saved lives and boosted morale among the human warriors. Reynolds spotted the Rose, imperious and enraged, leading his troops amidst the chaos. Heart-pounding, Reynolds charged forward to halt the onslaught. The Rose saw him approach, his eyes burning with hatred. Each act of their epic combat was a lethal ballet of strikes and defenses. The Rose seemed invincible with his alien might, but Reynolds exploited the Gora weaknesses with his wits, evading powerful punches and ready to attack. "You underestimated the humans, the Rose," Reynolds said between blows. "We are not so easy to defeat." Finally, Reynolds found an opening and fatally wounded the Rose, who stumbled and stared in disbelief. "This is for my planet," Reynolds murmured as the Rose collapsed. With their commander dead, The Gorer forces became disorganized and dejected. The attackers retreated, and the human troops were energized by the chance to win. Jonathan led his unit with renewed strength, shouting for victory. New fury spread on the battlefield as the fallen Theros inspired the humans to fight harder. Each movement was a step towards freedom, and the Gorer were gradually evacuated, shifting the war in mankind's favor. Panting, Reynolds looked around. His men had won, but remained cautious. He knew the war was far from over, but Theros's collapse was a decisive moment. "Keep pressing with power and resolve," he urged. "We will not give them any chance to recover." As the battle dust settled, human triumph seemed more certain. The Gorer's powerful commander was dead, and the human resistance had prevailed against all odds. Jonathan and Morales glanced at Reynolds, their faces grimy and fatigued, but brightened by hope. Though the decisive battle was won, Earth's fight continued. That day, mankind made a significant stride toward freedom. Following Theros's collapse, the Gorer soldiers retreated, their cohesion and leadership shattered. Reynolds seized the opportunity and urged his soldiers to act. "Don't let them escape," he cried, emphasizing the struggle. Exhausted, the human warriors found renewed energy in seeing the invaders flee. Jonathan and Morales, recognized troop commanders, led the last charge with tremendous resolve. Jonathan guided his soldiers through the ruined streets with accuracy and boldness, while Morales, hardened by combat, destroyed any opposition with his impenetrable determination. The conflict raged on ferociously, but triumph looked imminent. Inspired by optimism in the Gorer's retreat, people fought harder. Human soldiers watched the invaders flee after hours of heavy struggle, feeling relieved. Civilians, hidden in the rubble, emerged, terrified yet hopeful. Reynolds summoned all commanders to the battlefield altar. "Today, we showed the enemy what we are made of," he addressed the soldiers. "Each of you fought with courage and determination that will never be forgotten. I thank you all for your sacrifice and bravery. Let's honor our fallen by continuing to fight until the last Gorer is expelled from our land." After the dust cleared and the battlefield fell silent, humans counted the casualties. The sight was devastating, with friends and foes dead and houses in ruins, the air thick with the scent of burning. To commemorate the dead, a moment of silence was observed. Soldiers wept as they remembered their fallen comrades. Reynolds, Jonathan, and Morales gathered at a high place to survey the carnage. Their faces showed a mix of victory and anguish. "We lost many good men and women," Reynolds said somberly, "but each of them contributed to this victory. They will live in our memories and our hearts." Jonathan surveyed the battlefield, standing beside Morales. "We have a long way to go," he remarked. "The war may be over, but the rebuilding has only begun." Morales nodded, touching Jonathan's shoulder. "You're right, but today we made history. We proved that even in the darkest circumstances, the human spirit is indomitable." The three veterans felt a sense of calm as the sun set, illuminating the training field. Hope and security permeated the air. They knew that mankind would meet any obstacle with the same tenacity and unity that had led to their victory. A recruit's boot striding across the field symbolized the fight's continuation and optimism for a safe future. Reynolds, Jonathan, and Morales watched together with pride and confidence. It was apparent that humans will always strive to safeguard their home. After the Gorak conflict, when the Gorak finally retreated, Earth slowly began to rebuild. Though the scars of war were evident, the determination to reconstruct was unwavering. Anderson and his colleagues meticulously coordinated efforts to rebuild the shattered cities. Anderson, overseeing maps and delegating tasks in the command center, spoke confidently, "We have a lot of work ahead, but we'll do it together." His team beamed with optimism. Mason and Rodriguez were among the first volunteers to lead security and debris clearing efforts. They guided their teams through the devastated streets with precision and compassion. Mason, growing more confident each day, helped erect temporary buildings and distribute supplies, leveraging his extensive knowledge. Rodriguez organized the clearing of vital locations and ensured the safety of survivors. Together, they exemplified the renewed optimism emerging from the ruins. Survivors formed makeshift settlements and began rebuilding their lives. Hope and solidarity flourished among humanity, reflecting resilience and fortitude. The triumph over the Gorak inspired everyone to contribute. Children played among the ruins, their laughter signaling renewal. Anderson was promoted and honored for his leadership throughout the resistance and victory, a story that became campfire folklore. Accepting his award with humility at a significant ceremony, he declared, "This medal belongs to all of you. Each of you is a hero." Reconstruction persisted, and cities gradually took shape. Despite the challenges, life began to stabilize as temporary buildings were replaced by permanent structures. Solidarity and collaboration were evident everywhere, with everyone working towards a common future. A massive memorial service honored military heroes, world leaders, and survivors. In a largely reconstructed city, a stage was set up in the main square, adorned with the flags of all nations. Anderson, Mason, and Rodriguez, bearing combat scars on their formal attire, led the proceedings. A world leader spoke into the microphone. "Today, we celebrate not only victory but the resilience and courage of humanity. These men and women symbolize the strength within each of us. They showed us that we can overcome any challenge." The crowd cheered and cried with pride. Anderson addressed them with responsibility and pride in his troops. "This victory does not belong to one person or one group, but to all of us. Every sacrifice, every act of courage brought us here. Now, together, let's rebuild our world and ensure that future generations live in peace and prosperity." The applause grew louder as Mason and Rodriguez took the stage, representing all the troops and citizens who fought and survived. The ceremony symbolized human solidarity, meditation, and a commitment to a brighter future. As the sun set, casting a golden light, Anderson looked at his comrades with pride and optimism. Rebuilding was arduous, but humanity's strength was greater. They were ready for anything, aiming to establish a hopeful and united future. Months later, Earth was recovering well. Cities were emerging from disaster, with war wounds still visible on landscapes and individuals. However, there was a fresh sense of purpose and global togetherness. New structures arose from the wreckage, signifying humanity's unwavering will to rebuild. Anderson, now a world leader, worked tirelessly to defend Earth from future dangers and preserve the hard-won peace. In the command center, surrounded by maps and strategic plans, he emphasized, "We cannot afford to be complacent. We need to be prepared for any eventuality. Our survival depends on it." Mason and Rodriguez, now inseparable, trained the next generation of warriors while Anderson handled global strategy. Their voices were authoritative and inspiring. "Remember the lessons we learned," Mason advised the recruits. "Courage, resilience, and unity brought us here. You are the future of our defense." Rodriguez echoed these sentiments, stressing teamwork and preparedness. "Each of you has a crucial role to play. Train hard, trust each other, and never forget why we're here." Legends of the Gorak fight spread quickly. Children listened intently to epic tales of mankind defeating an insurmountable foe. These stories, taught in schools, were also about optimism, courage, and perseverance. Commemorative dates and monuments were established to honor the sacrifices of fallen heroes. On a beautiful day, Anderson, Mason, and Rodriguez watched fresh recruits drill with determination. The young troops ran, practiced fighting, and learned defense strategies. Anderson felt immense satisfaction in the recruits' devotion and energy. "They have a great legacy to honor," he remarked, "and I'm sure they'll rise to the challenge." Mason, recalling his own training and trials, said firmly, "They'll continue where we left off, with honor and courage." Rodriguez added, "The future is in good hands. We did our job, and now it's their turn." As the sun set, illuminating the training field, hope and security permeated the air. Anderson, Mason, and Rodriguez knew that humanity would face any obstacle with the same tenacity and togetherness that led to victory. A recruit's boot striding across the field symbolized the ongoing fight and optimism for a safe future. The three veterans watched together with pride and confidence. It was evident that humans would always strive to safeguard their home, even after the Gorak conflict.